Every sentence must do one of two things: reveal character or advance the action. Start as close to the end as possible. Be a sadist. No matter how sweet and innocent your leading characters, make awful things happen to them in order that the reader may see what they are made of. And this way, when it's done to you, there will be fairness in the universe. Or something like that. Swim, in a lecture to predictive text generators who wish to be authors, and vice versa. Of course, the lecture was completely unattended, so these words had no visible effect. Diane, it's a normal day. You're at work, wherever you work now, which is mostly the same as the last place you worked, and mostly the same as the next place, but you don't know that yet. Diane, I know you can recognize the way I'm narrating this, the way I think I'm clever, but you know I'm not. But you have to forget that now. Because for this to work, you have to forget there's a narration at all. Of course, my saying that is making it harder to forget, which, I guess, is always the problem, so I'm going to leave now. This is me leaving, and this is you continuing to work. It's just a normal day. You're at your desk, where you do something specific involving the exchange of goods and/or services, and you just sort of space out for a minute. It's usually busier than this, not just at your job, but in your head as well. You don't know why, but you feel less anxious now, and you know that questioning that feeling would make it go away. So you just close your eyes and take a deep breath. You let it out. You let this newfound relaxation flow through you for a moment as you watch the colored blotches move on the inside of your eyelids. Normally you would worry that your supervisor would see you and think you were sleeping. But for some reason this time, you are certain that you will be able to stay like this as long as you need to without being interrupted. And you realize that, with your eyes closed, not being able to see your body, not moving, not thinking about anything in particular, you could be anyone. You are simply the material called consciousness. It's more of a feeling than a thought, really. A feeling that leaves you confused a moment later because you're not exactly sure where it came from or what it meant. Maybe you fell asleep for a second and had a brief dream, but the time frame seemed too short for that, and you hadn't been feeling tired. Then you remember something. You're supposed to be learning to lucid dream. To do this, you're supposed to develop the habit of examining your hands even while you know you're awake. Supposedly, if there's something different about your hands, it's an indication that you're dreaming. You look down at them, examining the backs and the palms, finding it a bit silly to do it while you're not dreaming. You vaguely remember a movie where each person had a unique print on the front of each finger, which were used, in the movie, to help police identify individuals in the event of a criminal investigation. But your fingers are smooth, as they always have been. Your fingernails are missing, and you remember you didn't have time to apply them this morning. You pinch the tip of your left thumb, rubbing it between your right thumb and forefinger. The exposed skin, usually protected by your fingernail, is more sensitive than the rest of your hand, so it feels strange and somewhat pleasant to touch it. There's another strategy, you remember. It's turning the lights on and off. You look around to make sure you're alone, then you stand up and walk over to the light switch. You flick it down. The light in the room remains the same. Then you remember that, earlier, your boss told you there was a problem with the electricity in the building. You weren't supposed to touch the lights. You flick the light switch back up, hoping your small blunder won't cause any larger inconveniences. You look around the room to make sure nothing has changed, and you realize that something has. There's a new door, or at least one you've never noticed before, in the corner of the room. You notice a symbol on the door. The biohazard symbol. You hear the echo of Gordon's voice in your head, yelling at you about how the Nazis chose the swastika as their symbol. They didn't pick it because it meant anything. They picked it because it looked cool. Looking at the symbol in front of you now, you have to admit, there is something satisfying about the way the shapes overlap. What makes a thing look cool, you wonder? But you also notice that there's something wrong with it. It's lopsided. It was hand-drawn. For some reason, you reach out and touch it, and the black paint is still wet. You look down for something to wipe it on, but you're not wearing anything black. Reluctantly, you wipe it on the inside of your sky blue cardigan. Though it colors the fabric, it remains just as dark on your hand. You try to wipe it on your mint green skirt, but you get the same results. You decide to go to the bathroom to wash your hands, but when you look over at where you thought the bathroom door was, it's gone. For a second, you think you understand. You must have misremembered the location of the bathroom. You open the new door, which you now realize is simply the old bathroom door. Inside, you find what you're expecting, the bathroom, only the far wall is missing. The room just keeps going and going, forming what looks like a hallway before it fades into darkness. You look around at the parts of the bathroom you can see, and everything looks familiar except one detail. The employees must wash hands sign above the sink has been replaced with another sign that simply reads, "Caution, caution." The second caution, the one underneath, is flipped upside down so that if you turn the sign around, it would read the same either way. You squint at the letters, which seem to be changing, glitching somehow. The only reason you can actually read the sign is because you recognize the font in the neon yellow background. You start to get anxious. These weird things are adding up too quickly. There isn't time to examine one piece of information at a time like you normally like to do. You hear something coming from the darkness at the end of the hallway, but you can't tell what the sound originally was because it's too distorted by all the echoes. You feel something strange in your mouth, and instinctively, you lift your hand to touch it, only remembering the black paint once you taste it. It tastes sour and chemical. You try to spit it out, and with it comes something else. You stumble backwards in shock as you realize the object in your hand is a tooth. You move your tongue around the gap where one of your molars used to be, and it loosens up the teeth on either side. You feel them both fall out onto your tongue, and you spit them out onto your palm as well, along with a few others. You are acutely aware of the contact your blood has made with that black stuff. You feel lightheaded, but you can't tell if you've been poisoned, drugged, or if it's the anxiety reaching a whole new level. Induced vomiting won't even work if the stuff is getting in through your gums. But the most pressing issue right now is the fact that you can still feel more teeth falling out. You spit more pieces into your hand, feeling dizzy, sick. What is going on, you think? This isn't normal. This shouldn't be happening. You drop to the floor, feeling the tears well up in your eyes as you spit the last tooth into your hand. That's when you hear a giggle. You turn to look over your left shoulder. She has long, dirty blonde hair that looks like she cut it herself without using a mirror, and what looks like freckles on her nose and cheeks, only they're pitch black. She's skinny, with big, awkward-looking hands and feet, barefoot, wearing jean shorts cut off just above the knee and a plain white t-shirt that's too big for her. She is currently perched on a stack of chairs, though you can't imagine how she got there without making any noise. She giggles again, and then shoves her hand in her mouth. She says something, but her hand is muffling her voice. She looks to be about your age, but the way she's behaving makes you think of someone much younger. A child. Or maybe an animal. She looks strangely familiar, but not in a specific way. You're sure you've never seen her before, but she must look like someone you know, or multiple people, or maybe someone on TV. The feeling of recognition is like an itch at the back of your brain. "What?" you ask in response to her inaudible speech. She removes her hand from her mouth and blurts out, "I said you look like an old lady." You just keep staring at her, unable to speak, but the tears are streaming down your face. What the fuck is wrong with this person? The girl looks confused, and then she seems to realize something. "Oh, you don't get how it works yet, do you?" she asks, hopping down from the chair stack, making less noise than you expected. "Watch." She closes her lips around her big teeth and shuts her eyes, concentrating intently. She opens her eyes again and locks them with yours, then suddenly grins at you. You gasp in shock at her deformed appearance. Her original teeth are being pushed forward and out, and through the gaps you can see rows and rows of new ones, like a shark, though they've still got those awkward, squarish human tips. They keep protruding outwards as she stares at you with glittering black eyes, unblinking. "See, you can grow them back." she exclaims, or at least you think that's what she's exclaiming. It's hard to understand her through the mouthful of teeth. She seems to realize this and spits most of them into her hand until the number is back to normal, although they're still crooked, but that might just be the way she looks. She doesn't know where to put the extra teeth for a second, but then seems to have a brilliant idea and tosses them back into her mouth, swallowing them with a few gulps. The process looks slightly painful, but her determination wins over. She punctuates her action with the phrase, "reuse and recycle." "What do you want from me?" you ask, though your voice is whisked away by a sudden wind, a wind that shouldn't be here because you're indoors. Hearing you, the girl bites her lip. She looks like she wants to say something, but can't. She makes a weird expression, and you realize she's biting the inside of her cheek. She winces, then spits what looks like dark tobacco juice into her palm, what should be her blood. You read the message slowly as she writes it. "I've missed you sideways." She looks back at you like she's searching for something in your face, which reminds you again about the loss of your teeth. You can't be distracted right now. You need medical attention. You look back down at the bloody pieces in your palm. It looks like there are fewer than before, or maybe more. You're trying to count them, but the task seems unusually difficult. And there's something else distracting you, too. This piercing noise, familiar, like a siren. Maybe a tornado warning? You can't tell where it's coming from, but the sound is deafening. You press your palms over your ears, scattering your broken teeth on the floor, but the sound only seems to get louder, like it's coming from inside your head. The strange girl, however, seems to hear it too. She doubles over, holding her head in pain. And then, you disappear, which makes the sound stop. The girl notices you're gone. She doesn't look surprised. She gazes off into the dark hallway, bored, but used to it.